Have you ever said yes when you desperately wanted to say no? Stayed quiet to avoid conflict? Gone out of your way to make someone happy, only to feel exhausted, overlooked, or even resentful afterward? Most people think being nice is a strength, and in many situations it is. But here's a question few people ask. What happens when being nice becomes your default setting, even when it hurts you? The surprising truth is that constantly putting others first doesn't always create stronger relationships. Sometimes it does the exact opposite. And by the end of this video, you'll understand the hidden psychological cost of always being nice, and why the people who seem the kindest often end up feeling the most invisible. Being nice sounds like a good thing. From childhood, many of us are taught to be polite, helpful, accommodating, and easy to get along with. We're praised for sharing, rewarded for cooperating, encouraged to avoid making others uncomfortable. Over time, those lessons become part of our identity. But somewhere along the way, many people stop being kind by choice and start being nice by obligation. There's an important difference. Kindness comes from genuine care. Compulsive niceness often comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of disappointing people, fear of conflict, fear of being seen as selfish. And when that happens, something interesting begins to occur beneath the surface. You look generous on the outside, but internally, you're paying a psychological price. Most people don't realize that this price can quietly affect confidence, relationships, decision-making, and even personal growth. Let's explore why. Imagine a young professional named Sarah. Every time her coworkers ask for help, she says yes. Need someone to stay late? Sarah volunteers. Need someone to cover a shift? Sarah agrees. Need a favor at the last minute? Sarah can't bring herself to say no. At first, everyone appreciates her. She feels valued, needed, important. But after a few months, something changes. Instead of feeling respected, she feels trapped. Why? Because her self-worth has slowly become dependent on other people's approval. Researchers studying social behavior have long noted that humans naturally seek acceptance from others. That's normal. The problem begins when approval becomes a requirement rather than a bonus. When your emotional well-being depends on keeping everyone happy, you hand over control of your self-esteem. Suddenly, one disappointed person can ruin your entire day. One critical comment can outweigh 10 compliments, and one disagreement can feel like a personal failure. But here's the surprising part. The more desperately someone seeks approval, the harder it becomes to feel secure, because approval is something you can never fully control. No matter how nice you are, someone will eventually disagree with you. Someone will be disappointed. Someone will misunderstand your intentions. And when your identity is built around pleasing everyone, those moments feel devastating. At first glance, it seems logical. If you're always helpful, people should appreciate you more, right? Not necessarily. Imagine two neighbors. One says yes to every favor immediately. The other helps when they genuinely can, but occasionally says no. Which person appears to have more valuable time? Oddly enough, it's often the second person. Human psychology places value on things that have limits: time, attention, energy, availability. When something is endlessly available, people unconsciously stop noticing its value. What happened next was unexpected. The person who constantly sacrifices their own needs often receives less appreciation over time, not more. This doesn't mean people are intentionally ungrateful. It's simply how expectations work. Today's favor becomes tomorrow's expectation. The extra effort that once seemed generous starts feeling normal. And eventually, when the always nice person finally says no, others may react with surprise. Not because the request was reasonable, but because the pattern has changed. Most people don't realize that every yes teaches others what to expect from you. And if you never establish limits, people may assume you don't have any. Here's where things become complicated. Many people who are excessively nice don't actually feel happy about it. They feel resentful, but they rarely admit it. Imagine agreeing to attend an event you don't want to attend. You smile, you say everything is fine, you act enthusiastic, but internally you're frustrated. Now, multiply that experience by hundreds of interactions over months or years. Eventually, resentment starts building. The interesting part is that the resentment often isn't directed at the other person. It's directed inward. People begin thinking, why do I always do this? Why can't I just say no? Why am I always the one sacrificing? Researchers discovered that when people consistently suppress their own preferences to satisfy others, emotional tension often accumulates beneath the surface. The result isn't greater connection, it's emotional distance. Because genuine relationships require honesty, and if you're constantly hiding what you truly want, people aren't connecting with the real you. They're connecting with the version of you that never disagrees, the version that never asks for anything, the version that always says yes. And over time, that can feel incredibly lonely. For some people, being nice isn't just a behavior, it's their identity. They're known as the helper, the peacemaker, the dependable one, the person who never causes problems. At first, this feels rewarding, but eventually a difficult question emerges. Who are you when you're not helping someone else? Most people don't realize how much of their identity can become tied to being needed. If your value comes primarily from solving other people's problems, then setting boundaries can feel terrifying because it creates an uncomfortable possibility. What if people stop needing you? What if they become disappointed? What if they see a different side of you? This fear keeps many people trapped in patterns that no longer serve them. They continue giving, continue accommodating, continue sacrificing, not because they want to, but because they don't know who they are without that role. What happened next was unexpected. Many people who begin establishing healthy boundaries discover something surprising. The relationships that truly matter often survive, and sometimes they become even stronger because those relationships were built on genuine connection rather than constant accommodation. This distinction changes everything. Kindness says, I want to help. People-pleasing says, I have to help. Kindness comes from choice. People-pleasing comes from pressure. Kindness feels generous. People-pleasing often feels exhausting. Researchers studying motivation have found that humans tend to thrive when their actions align with personal values and genuine choice. In other words, helping someone because you genuinely want to feels very different from helping because you're afraid of disappointing them. From the outside, the behavior may look identical, but psychologically, the experience is completely different. One creates fulfillment, the other creates stress. But here's the surprising part. The goal isn't to become less kind, it's to become more intentional. You don't need to stop helping people. You don't need to become cold or distant. You simply need the freedom to choose, because kindness is most powerful when it's voluntary, not when it's automatic. Being nice isn't the problem. The problem is when niceness becomes a mask, when saying yes becomes easier than being honest, when avoiding conflict becomes more important than expressing your needs, when other people's comfort consistently comes at the expense of your own. The psychological cost isn't always obvious. It appears slowly through resentment, exhaustion, lost opportunities, and relationships that never get to know the real you. The irony is that many people spend years trying to earn acceptance by becoming whoever others need them to be. Yet genuine connection usually begins when people see who you actually are, including your preferences, your opinions, your limits, and your boundaries. Because true kindness doesn't require self-erasure, it requires authenticity. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do, for yourself and for others, is say one simple word: no. If this video resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on this. When was the last time you said yes to something you genuinely wanted to say no to? Share your experience in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and read your stories. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more psychology and human behavior insights every week.